Hello, happy Friday to everybody. Okay, good. I like that song. It said "Love never dies." Uh, in the there's a lot of things that come and go in our life, but there's things that remain that stay here. Love, faith, hope. It's these sort of things that have eternal significance. And when we give our attention to what has eternal significance, we find a lot more rest, a lot more peace. Life's not as difficult. But many things pull us away from that consciousness, don't they? We get all caught up in the affairs of life, and we get pulled away from the peace at times, and from the joy at times, and from the sense of everything just being okay. And that sense of righteousness, that sense of rightness, of being in sync in time, in flow with life. So sometimes it really helps just to find some place to focus. Something in the moment. It kind of hangs with us, it stays with us, no matter where we go, like our breath is a good thing. We can always come back to it. It can reconnect us with the reality that's here. But for now, what I'd like you to consider doing is, if you're in a spot where you can do it, just rest your hand on your lap. And just let it sit there, let it be still. Don't move it around. And just look at it. Just look at your hand. Now your eyes will see your hand as being fixed, being motionless. And that's what your eyes see. Look at it with your eyes, but don't move it. And you see it as being fixed and motionless. Yet in reality, it's not fixed. And in reality, it's not motionless. In reality, it is becoming and unbecoming all at the same time. Even while you're looking at it, old skin is falling away. New skin is appearing. Trillions of tiny atoms are moving around that compose it. And by the time the light of the appearance of that reaches your eyes, it's already changed into something else. So your eye, it's always changing. It's always moving, and even though you don't see it with your eyes, it is. So your eyes never really see things as they really are. They don't. They can't. They can only see things as they appear to be. They can only see things as they appear to be. See, the eyes can only see what's on the surface. They don't see deeply. The eyes don't see the bones in the hand. They don't see the blood coursing through it. They don't see all the things that are going on there underneath the skin. The eyes can only see what's on the surface. You know? Yeah. The eyes can only see what's on the surface. But there are inner eyes. Good point, Ghazi. Thank you. Yeah, Ghazi's my new friend and a real blessing. Talked to her privately. She's very deep spiritually. Glad to have her in the room. But anyway, the eyes only see what's on the surface. But if we look deeper, through the eyes of our understanding, our inner eyes, if we look deeply through the eyes of the spirit, the inner man, if we can look through a quickened, a living consciousness, we can then look at what the eyes do not see. And it's then when you look at what the eyes cannot see, then you see what the eyes do not see. Then you see what the eyes do not see. So if you give all your attention, if all your attention is given to what the eyes see, then you have no attention to give to what is not seen. If all the attention is given to what the eyes see, then you have no attention to give to what is unseen. So if you want to see what the eyes do not see, you have to give your attention to the unseen, to the love, to the life, to the truth, to the peace that remain steadfast. In the midst of all this becoming and unbecoming, in the swirl of becoming and unbecoming, there's the love that abides. And that's the place for our heart to abide, in that love that in the midst of all the becoming and unbecoming just shines on like the sun. If we would go out and glance at the heavens at nighttime, at first glance, we see the stars. We see the stars. But yet if we keep a steady gaze, as our eyes adjust to the light, many more stars will begin to appear. And you'll see a lot more stars after your eyes have adjusted than what you've seen at first glance. The stars were always there. They were always there. but your eyes did not see them at first glance. Your eyes had to adjust to the light, and then they seen all the other stars in the sky. And the love is here. And there's a lot more love here than you're going to get at first glance. There's a lot more faith here than you're going to get at first glance. There's a lot more peace here than you'll get at first glance. It's always been here. The love's always been here. The faith's always been here. The hope has always been here. The peace, the truth have always been here. But you have to give them your attention to see a greater manifestation of them. It takes being quiet and still and silence and giving your attention to the things that the eyes just don't catch. So we don't want to be all caught up in what the eyes see. Yeah, see through silence, not through logic. Yeah. So we don't want to be all caught up in what the eyes see. No, not that the eyes are bad, not that the eyes are not useful. You know, they've got their purpose. They've got their purpose, but we don't want to put all our faith in them. Do we? No. No. We can look at the same sky up at the stars at night, and we've come to understand through science and over a period of time that the stars that you see are actually light years away. Light years away. And that's the time it takes for light to travel from one point in space to the next, right? And they call that light years. So that by the time the light of that star reaches your eyes, by the time you see it, it's already gone. It's already burnt out. It isn't even there anymore. You're seeing a star, but the star is not there. Oh, yeah. So you're seeing it burnt out years and years ago, but the light, it took years for the light to reach your eyes, and you're just now seeing the light of that star now, even though it's gone. Oh. And how many things in our life are like that, you know? We see ghosts and specters and mirages of things that were. Yet our eyes never really do see what is. Because the eyes see through this filter of time. So their eyes, it isn't that our eyes don't see at all, but they see in part. They see in part. They see in part. They don't see the whole picture. They can't. They're not equipped to do that. They can't see the whole of it. And they're not supposed to. That's something we've got to realize. What we see with our eyes, Our eyes were never supposed to see it all. No, because our eyes are part of the body. They're not the whole body. There's other parts of you that come into play in this process of seeing, of comprehending. There's other parts that come into play besides the eyes alone. There is the mind. There is the heart. There is there are the other physical senses, the hands, the smells, all this stuff are all parts of one body, right? One body. So if we're seeing with the eyes alone, we're not seeing with the whole body. We're only seeing parts of what is because we're only seeing with parts of who we are. Yeah. Yeah. So we see through a glass darkly, as St. Paul said. He said, now I know in part, but when love is complete, when love is realized, I'll see things all together. I'll know even as I've been known, is what St. Paul said, to paraphrase him. So with the eyes we can realize parts of reality. Yeah. But not the whole of reality. Not the reality itself. And so Jesus even told us, he said in the Gospels, he said, do not judge by appearance, but use righteous judgment, is what he called it. Do not judge by appearance, but use righteous judgment. And I believe last week it was when I was talking about the judgment. This sense of judgment is a sense of discernment. It isn't a sense of pointing a finger and going right and wrong, but it's a sense of discernment. That kind of a subject of a judgment. So Jesus is telling us not to discern by appearance, but through righteous discernment. Through righteous discernment. Not with the eyes alone. Not by what we see at first glance. The things we see at first glance, can actually become food for the ego that we make presumptions and come to conclusions before seeing and hearing the whole matter. What we see at first glance often turns into a reaction, an egoic reaction, instead of a loving comprehension. So giving ourselves the space and time to see things as they really are is all the difference in being pulled into an egoic reaction or to see things with a loving comprehension. So we want to see things as the whole man. We want to see things as the whole man. Not with just the eyes, but with the heart, with the soul. We want to see as one person. to see as one person with all of our hearts, all of our soul, all of our mind, all of our power, to see as one person with all, to comprehend and know things from a posture of being an integrated being. Yeah. Rather than having our bodies being out over there, and our minds in another place over here, and our hearts even out yonder in some other place. How can we ever know things as they are if we don't put all of who we are into the knowing? The bigger universe is within you. I like that, Ghazi. Thank you. Yeah, but what arises is the I. There, Woodsman. Yeah, so what is true seeing is to see from the space of your being all there, being integrated. King Solomon wrote a lot of wise things, and some of them ended up in the scriptures. Solomon said this. He said, "To trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not unto your own understanding. In all your ways to acknowledge him, and he would direct your path. To trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not unto your own understanding. In everything you do, in all your ways, in all your thoughts, in all your doings, in all your sayings, in all your thinkings, to do that, to acknowledge him, to do that with the awareness of the presence of life in the present moment. If we would trust in the Lord with all our hearts and lean not on understanding, in all our ways acknowledge him, then he would direct our paths." So this is about putting all of our heart into it, to trust. Yeah, this is cool here. When we trust completely, then we see precisely. When we trust completely, then we see precisely. You want to know which way to go. You want direction in your life. You want to know what the next step, what the direction of the next step. It starts with trust that's here now. You have to trust what's here now. Here is where you step out from. So you have to trust completely to see precisely. Trust completely to see precisely. I'll just say that one more time. That's just really kind of bubbling up from inside of me. Trust completely, and you will see precisely. Trust completely, and you'll see precisely. So there's this seeing that comes from a position, a posture of trust in life itself, rather than the eye's perception of what's going on. And it's from this position of trust, this posture of trust, this stance of trust, that the path is made straight before us. It's that trust that brings clarity. It's that trust that brings light. It's that trust that brings clarity. It's the trust that brings light. To clear away all the stuff, all the beliefs that we've held on to. To get rid of the beliefs and make room for faith. Get rid of the beliefs and make room for trust. Make room for faith. This is what it means to prepare the way of the Lord. John the Baptist went in the desert. He said, prepare the way of the Lord. To prepare the way of the Lord is to clear away the beliefs and make room for faith. Because when we prepare the way for the Lord, then the Lord prepares the way for us. And we gain clarity, and we gain insight, and we lose our fear, and we enter into a flow. Yeah. When we prepare the way for the Lord, then the Lord prepares the way for us. Why? Because we are one. We are one. We're not separate. We're not separate. So in preparing the way for the Lord, in a sense, you're preparing the way for yourself. When you prepare the way for the Lord, you prepare the way for yourself. And you can't outgive God. You can't outgive life. When you give up your beliefs, you can't outgive God. You can't outgive life. For whatever you give to God, whatever you give to living, whatever you give to God, you give to yourself. And once we ever realize that at a heart level, at a visceral level, down in our gut, then we never have to be afraid to give anything we have again. It takes the fear out of it, because you don't lose nothing by what you give. There's nothing to be gained, nothing to be lost. Nothing to be gained, nothing to be lost. So going back to what Solomon said, he said to trust in the Lord with all your heart and to lean not unto your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he would direct your paths. Now the path is the way, right? Yeah. The path is the way. And it's not a way of our understanding. It's not the way that what the eyes understand. Let me put it that way. It's not that way. It's not the way of what our eyes see. It's really not the way of what we see or we know at all. It's a way of trusting. It's a way of trusting. Not a way of seeing and having it all figured out and knowing, no, it's not that. That's not the way. The way is the way of trusting. It's the way of not knowing and not needing to know. The way of not knowing and not needing to know. And I tell you now that right now you know all that you need to know in order to live a godly life that's pleasing to God, to life. How do I know this? You're breathing. You know all you need to know, or you wouldn't be here. But you breathe without knowing, do you not? The blood courses through your body, and your body's cared for, and your body's loved, and your body's provided for. Though you don't know how, though you don't know why the heart beats, why the blood flows, why the breath comes in and out. You don't need to know, but yet you can trust that it will. Do we sit around and worry that our heart's going to stop, that our breath's going to stop, that our blood will suddenly quit flowing? I think most of us have learned over a period of time that that's pretty much out of our hands anyway. So there's this way of just trusting life to pump the heart, just trusting life to breathe the breath, just trusting life for all of it, you know. And when we trust, what happens when we trust is we begin to relax. We begin to relax as we trust. And when we relax, then we see. See, the seeing doesn't come before the trusting. It's the trust that's the predecessor. The trust comes before the seeing. You don't see and then trust. You trust, and then you relax, and then you see. It starts with the trust. You trust, and then you relax, and then you see. You trust, relax, see. That's a good mantra. That would make a great mantra, especially for people that are going through some heavy adversity right now. That would be a great mantra for you. Trust, relax, see. Trust, relax, see. And just repeat that over whenever you feel out of place and overwhelmed. Just sit down and repeat the words. Trust, relax, see. See, seeing comes with the relaxation. When we try to see, what happens? When we try to see, we squint our eyes. We tighten them up, and when we tighten them up, not as much light comes in, and we actually see very little by trying to see, don't we? We see very little. But if we gaze softly with an open eye, we see the whole picture. We see not just the little thing in front of us, but the whole wall. We don't see the one brushstroke of the painting. We see the brushstroke in the whole painting. We see the whole painting, not just a little piece. when we simply relax our eyes, let them fall open, and we simply fall awake. We see fearlessly. We see things as they are through this trusting heart. Through this trusting heart. And see, you have to have a trusting heart, because what you fear, you will turn your eyes away from. What you fear, you'll turn your eyes away from. And you'll stay blind to the way it is. You'll never see it for what it really is as long as you fear it. You can't. Think of it when you're a little kid and you're afraid the monster's coming into your room. You throw the covers over your head so you don't see it. And all the time that all the monster was a shadow on the wall. But if you could trust and relax and see, the fear would be gone, So there's this trust. There's this way of seeing things with a trusting heart as things are becoming and unbecoming all around us. As things are in this constant becoming and unbecoming, becoming and unbecoming, becoming and unbecoming in the moment. There's this posture, there's this position, there's this sense of trust, Now keep in mind that everything is becoming and unbecoming. It's like earlier when I was talking, I said you see with your eyes, but even though you don't see it with your eyes, everything is changing. It's in a constant state of change. It's in this constant state of change. Everything, let me put it this way, everything that is changes. Everything is impermanent. And notice I use the word thing, right? Everything is impermanent. The love, faith, hope, these things remain, but everything that can be picked up with the senses changes. And yet, even though all this change is going on, there's permanence still there. If nothing else, there's permanence in everything being impermanent. There's permanence in everything being impermanent. So Solomon wrote, he says, there's no new thing under the sun. What has been will be, and be again. There's nothing new under the sun. And I consider that, in the state of becoming and unbecoming, there's nothing new under the sun. Yet if they're becoming and unbecoming, they're always new. So a better way to put that might be to say there's nothing that's going to come into being that has not already been in a state of being. Kind of like new, but at the same time old, not in an old sense, but in a familiar sense. New but familiar. It's like the this year's air in the springtime. You know, you smell the air in the spring, and we smelled the spring air in the past, in the years before. But it's not this year's air. This year's air has a life of its own to it. It's new. It's familiar. That familiar smell of spring. That familiar smell of the season. Yet the air that's here now has a life of its own to it. It's not the life of the air that was there a year ago. It has a fragrance of its own. Say that the flowers may be more abundant this year and the smell more intense. So it's got a life of its own. And when we smell it, we smell what it is now, not what it was. We may have a recollection of what it was, but what we're smelling is what it is now. But there is the new, and there is the familiar, in the state of becoming and unbecoming. The new and familiar are always this turning around like a ball. They're always in the cycle. So, if we want to know what is, if we want to know things as they really are, we can't really know them by memory. We can't really know them by recollection alone. Because things are simply not what we ascribe them to be by recollection. Because of that cycle of change, all things are new and nothing is old. Old is just an illusion. It's not real. And recollection is always about past thoughts. It's recollecting thoughts of the past. It's recollecting sensations of the past. And I can recall what was, but I cannot recall what is. I can recall what was, but I cannot recall what is. And when I try to recall what is, as if I was recalling what was, then I enter into this thing called illusion. and with that comes suffering. Because everything is living, it's alive, it's growing, it's in that state of becoming and unbecoming. It's a constant cycle, a constant turnover. A constant cycle, a constant turnover. Becoming and unbecoming what things already are. Some things you just gotta. Some things are only understood with the heart. The head just can't wrap itself around them. Just can't do it, man. There's things that just have never entered into the mind of man. There's things that, with Jesus, when he looks at the Pharisees and he goes, before Abraham and Isaac, Abraham was, I am. And then he says, the God of Abraham is not the God of the dead, but the living. I mean, stuff like that. It's like, oh man, it just plays hell with the mind. But somehow it's just understood. It's just understood. It's just understood with the heart. It helps just to get back to the simplest form sometimes. Just the simplest form of things. Jesus told us, he said, when Jesus was out and he wasn't telling people, Jesus never walked up to people and said, consider all the philosophies of mankind, or consider all the rules in the judicial system, or consider all the complexities of your DNA. He always said, consider the simple things. Consider the birds of the air. Consider the lilies of the field. He told us to consider the lilies of the field. The simple things. The living things. the birds and the lilies, the things that are alive, that are really alive. Consider the things that are alive. Not all the crap in your head. Not all the philosophies and your ideas of what awakening and enlightenment is. No, don't consider it. Don't get caught up in all that crap. Consider what's alive. Consider what's living in the moment. Consider the lilies of the field, the birds of the air. So consider the lilies of the field. Let's consider them. Let's consider them not with mere appearances. Let's just consider a lily of the field, a flower, and it kind of grows up out of the soil, right? Yeah. Now as that flower blooms, its appearance changes. Correct? Yeah. As the flower opens up and blooms, its appearance changes. And a moment ago, we seen only this flower bulb, and now now the appearance has changed, and we see this flower in full bloom. Now, is it the same flower that we seen a moment ago, or did some new flower kind of knock it out of the way and take its place? No, it's the same flower. It's the same flower. The same flower at a different time, but it's the same flower. The same flower with a different appearance, but it's the same flower. So its appearance has changed, yet it's the same flower. And then we let time go on, and the flower wilts, and it shrivels all up. You know how people look when they get old, all like a raisin, and it goes back to the dirt that it came out of, right? It returns to dust. What we call dust. What we call dust. Its appearance has once again changed. Now it looks like dust. But is it the same flower? Yeah, it's the same thing. Its appearance has changed. Its form has changed. But it's the same flower that was there a minute ago, now in the form of dust, Then the strange thing happens, this flower seed falls into the dust. And then that soil miraculously is transmuted into this thing called a flower. And it pops its head up out of the soil. And the seed eats the soil, and the soil changes its appearance, and the dust becomes a young flower. Now, is the flower still the soil? Is the soil still the flower? Yeah. They're the same. They're the same. So everything's new, but nothing's new. Everything's new, but nothing's new. Paradox. Yeah. It's a paradox. I think that's the word for it. Everything's new, but nothing's new. But the mind caught up in duality just will never catch that, never be able to grasp that. The mind all caught up in duality, there's only the flower, there's only the soil. There's only, not as far as them being the same, but as something separate. But in reality, it's all the same. It's all the same. Impermanence is very, very, very disturbing to the ego. The ego wants certainty. It wants things to conform to a certain pattern. At a certain time. And it resists change. And that's basically, in a nutshell, what the ego is. It's a resistance to change. It's this resistance to change. And we suffer desire. We suffer desire when we want things to be something in a particular, when this desire, it comes out of a belief. It comes out of this belief that things should be this or shouldn't be that things should change, that things shouldn't change. So there's this desire that comes out of the belief that things should or shouldn't be. And that desire sets in motion an absolutely futile resistance to what is. It sets in motion this futile resistance to what is. And what I want to call that futile resistance to what is, let's call that temptation. That's a good word for it. There's this desire that comes from beliefs of what should or should not be that sets in motion this cycle of futile resistance to what is. And that futile resistance to what is, I'm going to call temptation. And let me explain myself why. If we go back and look at the word temptation in the scriptures, it's derived from a Greek word, and that word is parasmos. It's a Greek word. It's called parasmos. Now, that word in its simplest form simply means adversity, okay? Adversity. So when I say the futile resistance to what is, that is temptation, I'm going to say it like adversity. Futile resistance to what is what we know as adversity. As adversity. In the scriptures of the Bible, St. Paul, in his epistle to the church at Corinth, writes this. He says, if you think you are standing firm, be careful that you don't fall. No temptation, no adversity has overtaken you except what is common to everybody. And God is faithful. He won't let you be tempted. He won't let you be subjected to adversity beyond what you can bear. But when you are tempted or subjected to adversity, He will also provide a way out so that you can endure it. And when I put that word adversity in there and see it in that light rather than through my understanding of what temptation was, it all comes together more clearly for me. So no adversity has overtaken me except what is common to mankind. Yet God is faithful, and He won't let me be subjected to this adversity beyond what I can bear. But when I am subjected to this adversity, He will also provide a way out so that I can endure the adversity. So to be tempted is to feel overwhelmed, to be taken over by the ego, by fear, by desire, that are born out of those beliefs. And the solution is basically to get down to the root. If you remove the belief, then the desire goes with them. Because the desire grows out of the belief, the way a seed does out of soil. Take away the soil, and the seed has nothing to root itself in. It passes away. So if we remove the beliefs, then the desire goes away with them. Remove the beliefs, and the fear goes away with the belief. If we remove our beliefs about what is proper or improper, of what should be or shouldn't be, of what's good and what's bad, if we take away the beliefs, then what happens to the adversity? What happens to the adversity? It takes two to be at war. War requires two parties. And if you don't resist your adversary, then your adversary cannot contend with you. The Tao says that no one can resist the sage because the sage simply does not contend. Jesus put it in the way of loving your enemies. Not to resist them, not to contend with them. And the reason we have a lot of the wars and suffering we do in the world today is because people claim to contend for their faith, when what they're actually contending for is nothing more than a set of beliefs. Because true faith is trust. And when you really got trust, it just does that even make sense to say that I'm contending for trust? I'm fighting for trust. Oh, the logic of, oh man, the way the world thinks. I'm contending for trust. No. They don't contend for their faith. What they contend for, what they fight for, is their beliefs. The very beliefs that produce the desire to go out and hurt somebody else. That's what they contend for. They contend for their right to go out and hurt somebody. Oh. And the wars that are going on, they're going on because we think we know something. We think we know something. We have our beliefs. And it's basically that knowing that robs us of our faith. That robs us of our trust. And it's the knowing that strikes fear into the heart. It's the knowing that blinds us to the way that is here even now. To the true way. Because the way is given to us, the way is clear. The way is given to us and the way is clear. And the obstacles that we find in our path that get in our way are created by our resistance to them. We manufacture the objects of our adversity. We place the mountains in a roadway, in the middle of the pathway, by our beliefs. The thing is, when the way is clear, we don't need to dance around things. We don't need. We stop following the pathway of the snake. Well, you see how a snake goes like in an S on the ground, always going around things. You know what I mean? But when we clear the way, when the way is clear, We can walk in a straight line, uninhibited, just straight way. We walk straight, unencumbered, and fearless. When those beliefs are not placing obstacles in our way. Yet there's not one of us who is not, I hate to use the word, I really do. There's not one of us who is not sinned. There's not one of us who has not followed the path of the snake at some time. We've all fallen prey to adversity in our lives. Adversity just takes the bite out of that word temptation. I like that word adversity a lot better, you know. But there's times when we've all fallen prey to adversity, when we've been drawn away by our beliefs and our desires. But life is always faithful to provide a way out so that we can endure it. At least that's what the scripture said. It said that, let me go back up to what it was saying. It said that when we are tempted, when we're subjected to adversity, He will also provide a way out so that we can endure it. Not escape it. A lot of people read that word escape into that scripture, but that's not what it says. It says so that you can endure it. Not escape it, but endure it. He'll provide you a way out, not an escape route, but a way to endure it. So when it says that in the scripture, it's not a promise by God to remove the adversity from you, not to remove the object of the adversity. It doesn't say that at all. But the promise is that He'll provide you with a way to endure it. He'll equip you with the means to be with it, to remain present in the midst of the adversity. He'll equip you to withstand the adversity. And when you look at the word withstand, it means to stand with. The eagle's always standing against something. But to withstand means to stand with. Doesn't mean you have to agree. It means you stand there, that you're present with it. To withstand is to be able to stand with, to maintain your presence, to maintain a state of being present in the middle of the adversity. Can or will God provide you with a way out of your external circumstance? Maybe, perhaps at times, but probably not altogether so likely, because those external circumstances are actually gifts. And they're gifts to awaken you. So God can provide you a way out of your external circumstance, But more often, he's going to provide you a way out of your thinking about it. A way out of your belief that your present condition is the end of the world. A way out of your belief that your present condition, your present set of circumstances, is the end of the world. A way out of your belief that what you consider a favorable set of circumstances are the nest of safety that you've made them out to be. A way out of those beliefs. Because it's your beliefs that confine you, that imprison you, that give birth to the desire that cause you to suffer. And there's never any rest in desire to be. There's never any rest in desire not to be. Because desire brings with it discontentment. And the fires of hell are fires of desire. And they're quenched by seeing things as they really are. Because in reality, there's nothing missing to be missed. In reality, you lack nothing. You lack nothing. You need to be perfectly who you are in this moment. Everything you need to be you, to live in this moment, is given you. Everything you need to be here now. Everything you need to be here now is given you, and your very breath is a testimony to the faithfulness of God to give you everything you need to be here now. Your very breath is a testimony that everything you need to be here now has been given you. If you doubt it, just go back to your breath. If you're breathing, you're alive, and everything you need to be here now is given to you. And there's so much more given to us than what we even realize. There's so much more here. There is so much here right now. There is so much wealth here. There is so much provision here. There is so much of what you just don't see, because you see things to be something that they're not. Or you see things encapsulated in your imprisoned in your beliefs. But there's everything we need is here right now. It really is. But it's our perceptions that take us away from seeing it. It's like I once heard the story about this this guy that was working by a prison on his car. He had a flat tire. He drove up beside this prison and had a flat tire on his car, and um, right there alongside him was this chain link fence, and this guy was watching this other guy try to change the tire on his car. And he turned his back, and something happened, and somebody had stolen all the nuts he'd taken off of his tire. And the guy's like freaking out, going, how will I ever get my tire back on? Somebody's stolen all my lug nuts off this tire. Now, everything he needed was there, but he just didn't see it. He had all the lug nuts he needed to put the tire back on. He did. And it was the guy on the other side of the fence in the prison yard that said, "Hey, come here a minute, buddy." He goes, "I want to tell you something. You've got everything you need to put that tire back on and drive away." And he goes, "How could I? Somebody stole all the nuts off the tire I just took off." And he goes, "No." He said, "Take one nut off of each of the other 3 tires. And from the one nut that you take off of the other 3 tires, use that to mount the tire that you need to mount, and it will get you to where you're going." And it was absolutely true. He had all he needed. He might not have had all he wanted. He might not have had all of the things he desired because he believed he needed those things, but he had everything. You know, so what you need is here. It's here right now. It's like a person that needs a step stool. And they look around in the room and they see a chair. And they tell themselves, I'm disappointed by life because I need a step stool and all I have is this chair. And it's their beliefs that is only a chair that keeps them from using that chair as a step stool. Because they're all hung up in the word. They're all hung up in the belief. You know? But that chair can easily function as a step stool. And it's our beliefs that keep us from seeing all the things that are right here, right now, that have been provided. There's a way. There's a way to stand with it all. There's a way to endure it all. There's a way. All we have to do is open our eyes to it. But it's that belief that robs us of the functionality. It's that belief that only this will be what I need. That only if my car runs, only if it doesn't rain, only if I have electric, only if I have money, only. So will we throw away the bread that the bird carried through the window because it wasn't bought with money? when we're hungry? Or can we go with the change? Or can we set aside our beliefs and be willing to change our position? Because we seek stability, we seek safety, we seek security in what is changeless, in something that we can solidify. Yet in a changing world, within a changing world, our stability is proportionate to our propensity to change. That's something good to chew on right there. In a changing world, our stability is proportionate to our propensity to change, to our willingness to change. How can I demonstrate this? Let me think. Somebody is climbing a mountain, okay? There's this mountain climber. He's climbing a mountain. He's not going to achieve stability on the slope by insisting that his posture stay the same. His balance will rather be enhanced by changing his position, by changing his form, by changing his stance to fit the terrain. Now suppose this mountain climber decided that his safety, his stability was in keeping one leg straight at all times, and held to that belief and tried to climb that mountain hopping up on one foot. Oh, how much stability will he have? How much balance will he have like that? So that belief will rob him of functionality. That belief will actually rob him of stability. Yet we do that, don't we, with our beliefs? We let our beliefs cripple us. And we go through life trying to hop up mountains on one foot. When all along we had two good legs. And so it is, there's nothing that's not whole. There's nothing that's not healed. It's simply that we've lost sight of the functionality. The awareness of the functionality has been lost in our beliefs. The awareness of the functionality has been lost in our beliefs. A good example of this is the guy that is late for work and looking for his car keys, running all around the house looking for them while he's holding them in his hand. His belief that he's lost them keeps him from seeing them, keeps him from the awareness that he's got them in his hand, running around with keys in his hand, freaking out, where are my keys? But when we look deeply, when we stop, when we get quiet, we can see that there's nothing, that there really is nothing lost. There's really nothing out of place. The only thing out of place is our beliefs about where things should or should not be placed. It's our dogmatic insistence that we know how things should be, where things should be, when things should be, rather than simply letting things be. And we only gain peace. We only realize peace when we simply let things be. When we simply let things be. Even our beliefs themselves about how things should be. We can just let them be. We don't have to fight with them. We don't have to go to war with them. We can let our beliefs about the way things should be just be. We don't have to give our hearts to them. We don't have to give our attention to them. We can simply see them for what they are. They're just beliefs. And we can see past them. We can see through them. Exactly, Christina. See things exactly as they are. And when the drama is seen for what it is, we see it as simply drama. It's just drama. The whole political scene right now can become a great source of entertainment for you if you'll let it. If you don't take it to heart. Ignorance can be very amusing. Watch the Three Stooges. Why do people laugh at that? We don't need to take all the drama seriously. We can give our attention to awareness of what matters the most, the love, the peace, the joy, the truth. All the other matters really don't matter so much, do they really? The matter doesn't matter so much. It's not so much about what is here. It's not so much about what is here, but how are we here with it? How are we here with it? It isn't so much about the circumstances we find ourselves in, but how we find ourselves to be in those circumstances with presence of mind, with presence of heart, with acceptance, with compassion. What matters most isn't so much as what's here, what's going on here, but are we here as a loving presence? Or are we here at odds? Or are we here in opposition to what is? It isn't so much about what we found to be. What we know to be. It isn't so much about what the eyes see. All that loses its significance. What carries more weight is who we are found to be. If we are found to be loving or not. Because it's the love that we are that makes everything all right. It's the love that allows us to be right with what's right here, right now. It's the love that brings about the righteousness, that brings about the justice, that brings about the peace. It's the love that allows us to belong with what's here, and takes away the distance between the truth of who we are and everything that's here. Because really there's nothing we are not when we're nothing in particular. It's the love that resurrects that sense of righteousness, that quickens it, that brings us back to our senses. The sensation of belonging to the here and now. The sensation of resting in the here and now with what's here. The sense of everything just being right, just being okay, just being perfect, just the way things are. Different schools of thought have different names for that. Some call it Satori, some call it Samadhi, some call it Nirvana, some call it the kingdom of God. Yet it isn't the words that matter. What matters is the essence. It's the sensitivity to, the tasting of, the perfume of the Dharma, the experience that the revelation brings to our being. A growing love more intensely. To rest more abidingly, to perform our task more joyfully. And as we awaken, we also awaken to comprehend that it is not the definition of what awakening is that matters at all. Let me say that once more. As we awaken, we begin to comprehend that it is not the definition of what awakening is that matters at all. It's all about the experience that the awakening brings with it, not the definition. It's the experience that the revelation brings to our being. It's the experience that opening our eyes brings to us. It's the experience that the opening of the heart brings. Are we experiencing more peace? Are we experiencing more joy? Are we experiencing more of a sense of righteousness? You know? Because if we're not growing to be enlightened at all. If we're not experiencing those things, then our knowledge has blinded us. And then we become blinded by our knowing, rather than knowing that we've been blinded. Because you see, my friend, a blind person does not know what blind is until he sees for the first time. And along with the seeing comes the awareness of the blindness. The seeing is a seeing that we do not see. The knowing is a knowing that we do not know. Or as the Tao would say, darkness within darkness, the gateway to all understanding. And that's a good spot to stop, to leave us in darkness so that we can see. Let me pop a tune on and I'll wrap it up. I don't know if Lynn's still here or not. Give me 1 second. Get to my desktop.
Of the early dawn, oh, to hear a voice speaking, I am with you all day long, as the gray gives